I remember back in the old days when I got my first iPod 4, my first touchscreen device. On the Apple Store, you would find tons of simple games, like Subway Surfers. Those were the good days of mobile gaming. These days, kids can play the same game I can play on my PC on their phone. This sounds amazing, but it's not all unicorn and rainbows. If you've been on the Play Store or the Apple Store today, you would find a bunch of PC games on mobile. Really, this is the beginning of a new trend of companies porting their big games to the phone. Actually, mobile ports were always a thing. A good example of an old mobile port would be BioShock. Sadly, you can't find it on the Apple Store anymore simply because it was shit, to be honest. But really, big games on mobile started to appear after the release of this one very special and very popular game. Whether you like Fortnite or not, it is a fact that it jump-started this trend of big games coming to mobile. When Fortnite was released on the iPhone, it was already getting very popular, and that mobile port pushed it into a super money-making machine. This showed other publishers that they can make a big amount of money in this big untapped market called the phone industry. This untapped market is most probably just kids whose parents don't want to buy a PC or a console, so they're stuck with an iPad. I mean, I don't really play Fortnite in groups, but when I do, I always run into 9-year-old kids with their iPads. Of course, we would see a lot of other games coming right after. To be able to compete with Fortnite, Bluehole had to release their own version of PUBG Mobile. They also wanted to tap in the Android market, where Fortnite was nowhere to be found. With PUBG getting a lot of popularity, especially on Android, it would not be long till we would see a bunch of games getting ports to mobile. Even Bethesda is trying to tap into the market with their upcoming Elder Scrolls Blades game they announced at E3. Today, a bunch of PC games can be found on mobile. I think really, one of the best games ported to mobile would be MapleStory. Simply because it does not require precise controls or a good reaction time. I'll talk about that a little more in depth later. Also, it's a pretty easy game to run since it's a 2D game with 2D characters, 2D landscapes, nothing is 3D, which is really easy to run for even a phone. Also, RuneScape. Remember that game? Well, if you've never played PC games in the early 2000s, I don't blame you for not knowing about the game. RuneScape was one of the most popular RPGs back in the day, before World of Warcraft that is. The publishers are clearly trying to get adults that used to play the game back into it. Then, even more recently, Ark was ported too, but there's a bit of a problem with a game like that. See, the main problem with the limitations of a phone are the controls. While a PC has a mouse and a keyboard and consoles have controllers, phones only have a tiny touchscreen, making most big games unplayable on phones. If you don't believe me, try Ark on your phone and we will see if it's fun. A touchscreen on a phone is just too small for your fingers to be on it and still be able to see what you're doing, really. Maybe it's not so much of a problem for kids with tiny hands, but for someone who has such as fingers, they won't be able to play at all. Not only are you limiting the screen real estate with your fingers, but you are not able to do more than 2 actions at once, since you only have 2 fingers at once on the touchscreen without it getting too uncomfortable. So for example, you can't really aim, shoot and walk at the same time. For a game like Fortnite where you can play on cross-platform with PC or consoles, this becomes a real disadvantage because they can do it while you can't. Someone will probably tell me that they can beat the best PC players of all time on their tiny phones. Well, good for you, little Jimmy. Now go play against people that have actually played the game before, and we'll see if you still beat them. Games that play the best on mobile are simple games that are simple to control, like Subway Surfers, where the only real thing you're doing is avoiding obstacles by swiping on the screen, or even Mario Run, where the only thing you have is swipe or press to jump, and Asphalt, or any racing game for that matter, that can be controlled by either pressing the border of the screen or just using the gyroscope to turn. These are games that feel good to play on mobile because they're not complicated. The controls are not the only limiting factor. Phones are just not powerful enough to play those big games just like a PC would. See, most phones have a very good CPU, which is good for multitasking and generally the speed of the phone. But they're lacking severely when it comes to graphics department. Those games are built primarily for big fat PCs or consoles, not a tiny smartphone. Because they will need a lot of power just to be able to run, those games will drain your battery faster than I can eat a Big Mac. Maybe it's just that my 2-year-old Galaxy S7 is too old, but almost all of those games run like crap. I can accept playing at 30 frames per second sometimes, but 20 FPS is way too slow for a game. I may not like PUBG that much, but what I can appreciate is that they make efforts at making an entire new version for the mobile, unlike Fortnite where it's just the normal game with even shittier graphics. Lastly, it's not so much of a problem, but anyways, who would actually play those big games on the bus or on the go? Like, most people prefer to play a small, easy, simple game on their phone, something that they don't need to pay much attention to, cause you know, you don't really want to miss your bus stop, do you? On the other hand, those PC games take a lot of concentration and attention to play. You can't really do quick sessions like you can in Subway Surfer. In the end, I would prefer companies to be concentrating making new games and fixing their existing game, rather than making a new mobile version of PUBG Arc. Anyways, if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, click that subscribe button down below, and join my Discord with the link down below. And get a life.